So now I'm just waiting. Got it. So I'm just waiting that it's coming back here. Let's see when he's come back. I think it takes few minutes. Yeah, the last time it took like 5 minutes, 5 good minutes. So
oh, no, 5 minutes. That's long time.
yeah, exactly. So the stream doesn't go directly.
Yeah.
I think it's set up something on the other side.
Right.
So
Okay.
yesterday it was the same. Like
The same. Yeah, it seemed like there were some issues.
so they will they potentially will have questions, right? And let me just no. Okay, just do a smile. I will just capture the screen.
Yeah.
Done. Perfect. Okay. Actually, let me do it something like that here. Okay, hopefully the stream will get at some point, because I don't think I have much support right now.
Okay, not
View streaming, that's what I've done yesterday again. Okay, let's just wait then.
Yep.
Just wait. Let's go to Meshery. Okay, and let me. Okay. So the stream doesn't want to come up. Let me ping again the supports. But yeah,
sure.
is sleeping. And I don't know who to contact. But it was exactly the same yesterday.
Yeah,
So.
sure. Yeah, I think like it's still not 5 minutes. We started at 10:30.
Yeah, it's a bit more than 5 minutes right now, so that's why
Yeah.
I don't like it too much, because yesterday I said something in the chats.
Yeah.
And
no, it didn't appear.
Let me get here. Okay. Let me get here. Yeah, because they are okay. So I don't know what to do more because I'm logged in. Let me see here. You know what? I think the meeting ended.
That's a bit strange.
Okay.
But
wait. Let me stop. Okay. You know what? Let's start. So, welcome to day 2 for the ones that are in the Asian continent and Europe. So the US, I think they will get around midnight right now, the Pacific time. But for us, it's already day 2. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed DockerCon and all the very nice demos and sessions that we had. Please remember, if you are registered, you can have the replay, which I did actually yesterday already. I saw like typically the Solomon Ikes demo that was crazy. But yeah, so everything that all the sessions are now for replay. I don't know how many days, but whenever you can catch up. So for anyone connected, I thank you. So like I said, day 2, and this day 2 starts very strong with a crazy demo. I'm really looking forward to see it from my man Shivay. So Shivay, please introduce yourself.
hi, thank you so much, Nuno, and it's a great pleasure to be on the stage with you. And a very quick introduction from myself is that I graduated last year from my undergrad degree in computer science, and I have been associated with a lot of different open source communities, and specifically the service mesh community layer 5. I joined back in March of 2020, so it has been almost more than 1 year that I've been part of the community, and it has been probably the most awesome community because I literally learned most of my cloud basics like Docker, Kubernetes, staying over here at the community, and of course learned about service meshes. And I got a chance to also become a Google Source Code mentor with the CNCF for one of the layer 5 project that was with the Envoy load proxy. So that was one of the projects that I had mentored for Google Source Code 2020 as well. And I've been regularly just been contributing to a few projects from the layer 5 community, and also have been a meshmate. That is again a really unique program within the layer 5 community that helps to connect one-to-one with newcomers in the community. So it's a great pleasure to today showcase a project that is being able to run Meshery via WSL with the help of K3D or Minikube. So today we'll be going over what exactly is layer 5 Meshery and of course service meshes, and then we'll move on to the demo as well. So really excited, and yeah, I hope like everyone enjoys it, and we'll take up the questions later on.
Yeah, beautiful. Exactly. So before we start again, like yesterday, please do not hesitate to ask any questions on the chats while we are going. I will try to manage them while Shivai will be presenting, of course.
Yeah.
Read the title. We are still onto let's say the DockerCon area, if you want. So the code of conduct applies. Be nice, be kind, have fun. Really, that's what we ask. You will see my style is always like to laugh a lot. So Shivaya, I'll try to get Shivaya in tough spots though. So that's all good. And
Absolutely.
the second word, definitively. And we are in the WSL2 room, so I'm the Corsair king here, so I can do kind of what I want. But okay, the thing is like layer 5 community is crazy good. If you are a newcomer into this cloud native, and not just Docker, not just Kubernetes, really cloud native area, and you have your skills, be it documentation, be it web development, be it development on the system, okay, and you don't know how to do, you want to really get started, do not wait and join the layer 5 community. They are on Slack mainly. I will ask you, Shivai, at the end, please, just to post like the main links for yourself, of course, and for the Meshery project, the end layer 5, everything. Lee Corbett, the one that really, let's say, created layer 5, right? He put in place something, a community that really helps. Okay, that's sorry, not Lee Corbett. Oh my God, sorry, Lee Calcott. Come on, Nuno. So it's really early. I slept not too much because I ended. Okay, but Lee Calcott, Lee Corbett, whatever. Okay, so Lee Calcott really created a community that is helpful for everyone, and like Shivai just said, it went actually the next level where he put like some kind of internal mentors, if you want, called the Meshmates.
Yeah.
Meshmates, okay, Meshmates that will actually help you get started, like how to use potentially GitHub, how to do a PR, how to actually provide your help, what are your strengths, what you lack, and so on, right? And the whole community is really helpful. So again, I cannot say enough good from Lee and the layer 5 community, which Shivai is part and lots of others are part. Okay, so with all that said, Lee, again, apologize. It's really early for me right now, but Lee Calcott. So anyway, so yeah, Shivai, please go ahead and just share your demo and presentation.
Sure. I'll start presenting my screen. Give me just 1 second. So, do let me know if my screen is visible to everyone.
Yeah, all good.
All right. So I'll click on present. Okay, great. So we're going to be having a very small presentation at first, and then of course we'll be moving into the actual demo as well. So as you can see, right, the title is pretty self-sufficient, running Meshery. So just to explain briefly what exactly is Meshery, and of course how you can get started by using Meshery, and how to install it if you're a Windows user, because this is specifically a Windows demo because you're using WSL. This is WSL community room. So if you have Ubuntu or Mac, you can use other methods. And again, the documentation to install Meshery on Mac OS or Ubuntu is very well documented. Again, we can provide the links for those operating systems as well. So without wasting a lot of time, first of all, let's talk about what exactly are service meshes. So see, for example, when we talk about a lot of the cloud computing concepts, right, we have things like Docker, we have Kubernetes, we have microservices, right? And based on the standard architecture of how we divide all the different APIs into a service level, right? So basically you don't have like a monolithic structure, but you have different services, and that is how these microservices come into the picture. So similarly, a service mesh, what happens is like it is specifically in the infrastructure layer of any application. It's built right into the infrastructure layer, and it allows you to actually have a system level control where different services of the application can communicate with each other, and each of these services are basically like, and you can say that each part of your application is actually a service, similarly to how we have the microservices based architecture, right? And basically what allows is that each part of the application that we have, it basically relies on the other services that that the user wants to give. So based on, let's say for example, we have a retail shop, right? And let's say we want to see whether, like, let's say an item is actually in stock or not, right? So normally what you would do is that the service that is for providing, let's say if it wants to find out what's there in the stock, it will communicate with, let's say, the inventory stock, right? And it will so that is how we'll basically build different type of services, and they'll be communicating with each other inside of the service. And basically it allows you to have like this network. That is why we call it like a service mesh, which basically this we have this dedicated infrastructure layer, and it tells you how how all the different services interact with each other. Then it also allows you to optimize the communication between them. And let's say if there is sometimes let's say the traffic grows into your application, it allows you to also optimize the communication so that there is less downtime of your app. So it's more on a dedicated infrastructure layer as we have. So that is what our service meshes. There are a lot of different common service meshes. You must have heard about Linkerd. Then we have Open Service Mesh by Microsoft. So there are a lot of different. Istio is another popular one. So Meshery is basically a tool, and again, like this sort of gives you the high-level architectural view that you have all of your different applications, right? Where you have this control plane. This is a service mesh control plane, and all your different instances. Like these are instances of your apps that can communicate back and forth, right? As you can see, and or you can observe all the different metrics as well from this, right? So essentially, what exactly is Meshery? A Meshery is a tool that helps you actually look at the performance of all the different service meshes. What is their traffic that is going on? You can look at you can actually change their configurations, right? And it is a multi-service mesh that it has support for multiple service meshes. So all the different popular service meshes that I have just mentioned, Istio, Linkerd, Open Service Mesh, it has support for all of them. And you can compare between them. You can install any one of those service meshes locally and test out its traffic, its current traffic management inside of Meshery itself. And you can do it for multiple service meshes as well. So it's if you are having a service mesh based architecture, Meshery is a great tool for you to keep a look at how your service meshes are performing, and how like how you can improve, because you also get graphs and metrics to actually look at those. So it's a really great tool if you are having that service mesh architecture, and you can definitely get started. Because again, if you want to get started with Meshery, again, do join the Layer 5 community, and this Meshmate program will help you get started with the most basic concepts of getting your first ever installation of Meshery into your system. And then the Meshmates actually help you to get your first ever pull request as well. So that is the level of guidance that Meshmates provide you. So in case you are interested in learning about cloud native, about Meshery, about service meshes, do join the service mesh community of Layer 5.
Yeah. So just a second. So before we go on, right? So here it's DockerCon, right? So we will be explaining a lot about Docker afterwards, but it's good to know. Now, in terms of complexity, let's say, or knowledge, if let's say if we have Docker, okay, we have the OS, right? But then we have Docker and everything that is like microservices, like Shivay just explained. Then Docker, if it's the base, then your next knowledge will be Kubernetes, okay? The next, let's say, step up. And then finally, you will have service mesh, right? So service mesh is like, again, a concept that comes up on top of the Kubernetes. I'll call them concepts like for the learning aspect, right? It's platforms, it's like tools and ways of communication. Like it was on the previous slide, is like what we call that, the east-west networking, okay? So the thing is, like, if you start with service mesh, the learning, it will be really hard because you are lacking like a good portion of knowledge below, okay, which is like the containers, the microservices, then the orchestrating part, which is Kubernetes, and then finally the service mesh that really will help everything like coordinate even a little bit better. So the Meshmate here is really important. Like Shivay is explaining, is like not only, okay, they will help you start your open source journey in a sense, okay, so you will be participating into projects that are open source, and we'll see that afterwards in the GitHub. But then it's like also like not only that, it's also like, what is this tool? What does it do? So Meshery, like Shivay said, is like it's the control plane kind of other service meshes, right? So it doesn't really care about, like, it's not a service mesh itself, for one. Okay, it's really like a management layer of these service meshes. You do have some dashboards on Linkerd, on Istio by itself, but here Meshery, the strength is like you have at the top the, let's say, the management, so you can see a lot of service meshes, but also you have now this performance management that you might not have on some by default, let's say. Okay, so Meshery is really like a tool that is not just like a shiny dashboard for service meshes. No, it also brings like some, let's say, features that others might lack from the very beginning. I'm not saying they do, I just say like they could. Okay, so Meshery, you have everything in one place, very nice. Okay, sorry Shivay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, again, like that is a very well described implementation like that you've described. Yeah, so basically, again, as the idea is that if you are using service meshes, it's definitely very important to keep a stance of how are they performing, and that is where Meshery comes into the picture. And of course, Meshery is not just about the service meshes. There are a lot of different other tools like service mesh. Plane, right? Again, we have a lot of different other tools at layer 5 that are also related to service mesh. So if you're part of SMI, right, a service mesh interface, if you're part of those communities as well, layer 5 has a lot of different other projects as well. So you can have a look at those. So essentially, like again, like this is basically the architecture that, how Meshery operates over the service meshes, that whatever service meshes that you have, you can request a load which the Meshery is able to look into, and then it can provide you the insights. And of course, that as we have described that you first have to learn Docker, then you learn Kubernetes, then you learn service meshes. So when you want to install, essentially you'll be using all these different services. So if you want to play around with service meshes, or if you want to play around with Meshery, first you have to get used to Docker, and you have to install Docker, you have to install Kubernetes, right? And you have to install Mesheryctl, that is the command line tool for Meshery that can help you get started, right? So these are all the different things. I'll spend just a little time, just to sort of show the links on how to get started by installing these.
Yeah,
So
please.
since I have basically already installed them, if you want to install, first of all, WSL. So of course, like we can provide a lot of different guides on how to get started with WSL on your Windows. There are some guidelines, but I'll skip the WSL part, but we'll directly just talk about like, let's say if you want to install Docker. So this is a great link, docs.docker.com/install/ubuntu. You just need to, once you have configured your WSL, and of course, just to show everyone how WSL looks, so I'll quickly go into my command and command prompt, and you can see WSL. It will have like the Ubuntu icon. When you install WSL, it gives you the platform whether you want to install, let's say, which Ubuntu flavor basically. So you can install 18.04, or let's say 18.20, like the 20, basically Ubuntu 20 version. So we would recommend installing Ubuntu 20. So for that, you can simply go to the store, the Windows Store, right? And you should be able to go and simply search for Ubuntu over here. So if you search for Ubuntu, and you have to specifically install 20.04 LTS. I already have it installed, so you can see that for me it shows launch. If you are installing it for the first time, it will be installed. And once you install WSL and the flavor of Ubuntu, you can simply then just provide which flavor of Ubuntu you want to run as the base of your WSL application. So once you do that, and just for that, right? So once you have done that, the next step that you do is that you install Docker. So this is the link that you can follow. Again, very simple steps. It shouldn't take you more than probably 15 to 20 minutes at max to install. And finally, once you do install it, you'll find if you try to run sudo docker run hello world, you'll find running. And again, we'll not go too deep into what exactly is Docker, but essentially, again, Docker is a way to containerize your applications, right? And that is also we're using over here, because again, we are looking at, or we're working with containerized applications. So you can follow this path to install Docker.
So one important part, sorry, because again, DockerCon, we need to explain everything kind of around Docker. So here, Shivay, and that's normal, Shivay will use what we discussed actually yesterday during the panel with Stuart and Aiden. We are using Docker. It's still Docker, right? It's still maintained by Docker, okay? But we will use the Docker inside WSL2. We will not use the Docker Desktop, okay? Which is important now to, let's say, to make like the difference. It's still Docker, it's still managed by Docker Inc., okay, these parts, okay, Docker on Linux. As Shivay showed, what you saw is not like, is it for Ubuntu WSL? No, it's for Ubuntu, full stop. WSL, and if you are in this room, normally you might know already, but like WSL is really like a micro VM with a Linux kernel, with the Linux user space fully, okay? There are like some caveats here and there, but like it's really like a Linux running inside Windows. So by going to this page, by following the let's say the blog post as is, that's important, right? So you are not trying to do something here because it's WSL. No, you follow the Ubuntu install as is inside WSL, and done, and you will get Docker, believe me. Okay.
So for example, if I do open another instance of WSL, so let me open that. So if you, for example, like sudo update app get update, it's just used to, you know, update all the packages. So I mean, I can try to do that, but you'll have to open up your WSL, and in case you have successfully opened up, right, that your Linux version, you'll see that Linux icon, right, Ubuntu icon basically. So I'll just let's say run the sudo apt-get and update, so that it updates all my packages and asks for my password. So this way, you'll have to just go through all the different commands that are there. Again, as you said, that the installation for Docker specifically shouldn't take you more than 15 to 20 minutes based on your internet speed. So usually it should be a very pretty, you know, straightforward approach. And so by the way, are we also asking, oh, okay, this is fine. So once you have, you know, gone through all the different steps, the one thing that you'll be able to then use is that, for example, we'll just focus on over here. So let's say I clear this out. So the idea is that once you have, you know, successfully installed Docker, we can use something like a service, like a command called sudo service, and then Docker start. So basically what does this do is that it starts the Docker environment locally in your WSL. So if I run this, and if I do overhead, so it shows that, you know, it has started Docker. Then also you can look at, you know, if to just to check whether it is working, you can do Docker version. That provides you the Docker version that is running currently in your WSL environment. So as you can see that right now for me, it is working correctly, working completely fine. Sometimes you might face a bit of issues. So just I have compiled basically a list of common steps that you can take in this GitHub, like, but of course, like, no, you can also share, but these were just some ones that I felt that, you know, might be useful if you face certain issues in, no, like sometimes what happens is this is a quite common issue that the Docker daemon is not running. So you can just follow these steps over here. Basically, sudo service Docker start is the most important one to run successfully, to actually start Docker, because when you run WSL for the first time, or let's say you have switched off your computer, you restart, Docker is not active. So you have to, you know, run Docker again. So the sudo service Docker start is an important command to run to get your Docker Docker instance starting in your WSL.
Right. So yeah, like I said, Shivay, and for everyone now listening, uh, Shivay will just post like main links at the end, okay, on
Yeah.
the community chat, so you will have all that. But yeah, great to compile that actually on GitHub. Great
Yeah,
idea.
sure. Yeah. And then, okay, I'm sorry.
No. Can you for the rest, can you just click press Control and zoom just a little bit,
Sure.
so the font will be bigger.
Yeah, we'll make it bigger. Okay,
Yeah.
so once, let's say we have we have done with Docker. Now there are a couple of more important things to work around with. So one is installation of a Kubernetes environment, right? So that can be done on Windows, either if you're like, let's say using Docker Desktop, you have native support for Kubernetes in that. But of course, there are other platforms like Minikube or K3D. So K3D is provided by Rancher, and it is like sort of a Dockerized container of the K3s, and K3s is like a flavor of Kubernetes that is used for edge devices. So it's a much more simpler or smaller version. So it basically K3D runs on top of K3s, and again K3 is very optimized for IoT based devices. And let's say if your main power device is very, like, let's say it's small, and let's say the system resources are limited, you can use that as well. So in this demo we'll be also using K3D. So just again, we have a really great guide to, again, that was actually written by Nuno. I guess Nuno, this was the one, right? Ransomware blog, setup K3 one, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
this is one of the, yeah. So this is by our great Nuno, and you can follow again this one to get started with setting up of K3. But just in case you actually want to install K3 or K3 D, right? Basically, the idea is that you can follow over here, and you'll follow, like, let me show you the exact command. So the exact command that you would need is basically the curl command. So basically what it will do is that it will fetch from the GitHub, like from the GitHub repository of Rancher of K3D, it will directly install it. So like it's a shell command, shell script that it will run automatically. So you just need to use this command. Of course, for me, I have again already done that. So if I do something like K3D, it will already show me that K3D is installed for me. So you just need to follow this guide again to get started with K3D. And in case, let's say if you're using Minikube, this is another guide on the official kubernetes.io, where you can get started with Minikube. So Minikube has basically two different versions. Either you can use the local Minikube, you can download the like Minikube assets right onto your Windows, like the standalone application, and run that as well. Or you can also install Minikube directly on WSL as well. So you have both options of installing Minikube onto Windows or onto WSL, but you can communicate with both of them with your main Meshery application when you are trying to do it. So we'll not go too deep into it. We'll stick for this particular demo with K3D. And so once you have installed K3D, then basically what happens is, because we have Kubernetes, right? So we like, if you are well aware, or if you're not well aware, just to give a very brief overview of how Kubernetes works. So basically, Kubernetes is an orchestration tool that helps to look. So basically, you have different containers, but let's say you have a lot of different containers. So how do you manage them? So Kubernetes is an orchestration tool that helps you to manage the different containers that you have. So these are containers that you have created using like, these are Dockerized containers, and then you maintain them using, or like you do the orchestration using Kubernetes. So in the architecture of, if you talk about the architecture of a Kubernetes environment, we basically have these pods, and each pod will again have a set of containers. And again, like, we'll not go too deep into Kubernetes architecture that much, but just to give an idea, like, we are going to be having our clusters in this, right? We'll be basically creating a new cluster, and that cluster will be the one that will be responsible for setting up with that Meshery CTL, because the Meshery CTLs does require you to have an ongoing running Kubernetes cluster. So using K3D, we'll be creating a cluster, and basically to create a new cluster, you can use K3D. Once you have installed K3D, we have cluster create, and then you basically create, like, you give the name of the cluster that you want to create. So over here goes the name. So this, what will this do is that it will create the cluster for you. So for example, let's say I create one by the name of Meshery2. So this will give you a cluster create, will basically create a new cluster for you. And as you can see that it's creating the node for you as well. And it does give you like load balancer, because of course, when you're creating like, let's say Kubernetes environment, you get all those different things, right? So if you use the K3D cluster create, it will create a cluster for you.
So what is happening here? Yeah, quickly, sorry, because we are looking about like create volume, create nodes, and server LB and so on. So we will not enter too much into K3D itself. There's plenty, like there's the blog post, of course, but there's Torsten, the main maintainer, that did crazy demos already also for Rancher. Is not working for Rancher, so just a small part here is like K3D is really an open source project. K3S is from SUSE/Rancher, right?
Yeah.
K3D is open source, but it's so good actually that is hosted, which is true. That's what Shivay just showed. Is hosted directly by Rancher. Okay, so it's hosted in the GitHub of Rancher, but the main project is led by Torsten. And you can get more information out of Rancher and everything, of course. So here, what K3D did really, and that's what you see all the way down, is like it created several parts of, let's say, Docker in a sense, which are like volumes, networks, and of course the containers themselves. So without using K3D, sorry Shivay, I will just, like I said, I will put you on the tough spot right now. First of all, just do a Docker PS only.
Yep.
Right? And what we will have by doing that is like which containers are running, okay, like that are active. And then here, well, okay, we have a lot of Meshery already. That's okay. Don't sweat too much. But then we have like two K3D proxies. We have two 1.v, like we have 3 nodes already running, kind of, and that's now the strength, okay, of K3D and Docker, because it splits, let's say, environments. Is like Shivay, you don't see it here, but Shivay is already like running at least 2 K3D clusters. Okay, so by doing a new one, okay, well, it simply creates, and because the management port is random, you can run all of them. Like you can see on the first line, you can see like the port 80, and then the port like on all the IPs open on 32,927. And then we have another one that is like 40,633 and so on, okay? So by doing these randomization ports of the, let's say, the management API, if you want, okay? So you can actually have as much as K3D clusters you want, but again, remember, it's still Docker, it's really small, but it still consumes some memory, some CPU, some, let's say, disk space, right? So K3D is great to actually pop up, do your stuff, kill, and restart, okay? So that's really the principle of this, let's say, new era, like I call it. It's no more new, but it's more like this new era where it's cattle. So you don't treat your cluster here, in this case, right, with K3D, you don't treat your cluster like, oh my God, it go down, I have to make it up. No, if it goes down, you just kill it and you start a fresh one, okay? That's the principle, like Docker bring it, okay? It's no more a pet, like you don't try to fix everything inside. It's not bare metal. It's really something that is on Docker. Okay, yeah. Perfect. So you created your cluster. So the K3D Kubernetes cluster is now created. So yeah, please continue.
Sure. So of course, now the thing is that we have created the cluster, right? And the name that we have kept is K3D Meshery2. So the next step, right? What is the next step? So see, there is an important command that is basically kubectl. Now, what is the main idea behind kubectl? It is the command that will help you actually navigate through all the different Kubernetes clusters, right? So basically, kubectl is you can consider kubectl to be the de facto command when it comes to doing any kind of Kubernetes based operations, right? So kubectl is the one that we are going to be using. And as you can see, right, when we used or when we installed our cluster, when we created the cluster, you can see two commands over here. One is kubectl config use context K3 Meshery2 and kubectl cluster info. So basically what we are doing over here is that we are providing a kube config file, right? So we're basically providing a configuration file that tells you what is the network. Because see, when we are talking about service meshes or any kind, we provide the networks, right? So basically it will provide you what's the IP address or what is the network, and it will give you the configuration of that entire. So what you have to do is that you have to basically run both of these commands. You can run both of these, and this will help you to basically create your configuration files that are required for this particular cluster. And when you actually run kubectl cluster info, that will provide you the information about your current cluster. So we can quickly run this as well. So let's run this both commands and we'll see the magic. Okay, so as you can see, like over here now it has switched, like kubectl has switched to this particular cluster, that is the K3D Meshery2. And if I run this now, if I copy the cluster info and share with you what exactly is the cluster info. So there are essentially three major things that you can see over here, that the Kubernetes control plane, where exactly that is running, and of course with the core DNS and the metric server. So these basically tell you things about the proxy servers and all those information.
Beautiful.
Like if you want to add something over here,
No, all good. So like the cluster is now running. Again,
yeah.
If you just do a kubectl get contexts with S at the end, dash context, get dash context, contexts, okay. Oh, contexts only? Oh no, sorry. Kubectl config and then get contexts. Config get dash contexts. Normally that's the good one, right? Okay. By doing this, what it will do is like it will show all the contexts that are actually accessible within your commands with kubectl. Okay, so that doesn't mean that they are up or reachable. Okay, so that's that. Yeah, so the config, you have some config in your own kubeconfig file, okay, that reference all these here, the Minikube one, the Meshery one, and the Meshery2, okay? Then, whenever you did the commands of the use context, then that's how you actually switches in the kubectl way. There are tools, okay? The more you will be using Kubernetes, the more you will think that, okay, it will be nice to have like helpers and tools. There's something called kubectx, okay, which is kube context, that will really help you like switch contexts way faster than just like doing all that, okay, with a better view and a better, let's say, not better, but like helpful, more helpful, let's say, command set and everything. But still, with kubectl, you can get all the, let's say, the basic tooling and the basic, let's say, commands to actually do your work, right? It might be just like a little bit longer, or you have to remember exactly where they sit, right? Whenever you use another, let's say, small tool, suddenly you are already in the good place doing the good commands, right? So kubectx in this case. But yeah, cool. So here we see like current, you have the small asterisk. We switch it, let's say, to the Meshery2 cluster. Okay, all good. Yeah, please continue.
Yeah. All right. So far what we have done is we have installed Docker. Our Docker is up and running. we have installed a cluster of K3D, like we have named that cluster as K3D Meshery 2, and we also have configured our kubectl. Now, of course, what's the brain behind all of this is the Meshery, right? So one important thing to keep in mind is that why do we use Docker, or why do we use all these different tools just to run Meshery, right, on Windows? So basically, the idea is that when you have, like, let's say Meshery, like just talking about the architecture of Meshery. So if we go to to the GitHub, and like that will give a better insight. If I go very quickly to the GitHub of Meshery, right? So if I go to layer 5 and if I go to Meshery, you'll find one particular file, and that is what I would want to focus on. So essentially, what one thing that you have to keep in mind is that the Meshery is based on compose. It's based on a compose file, right? And that is the reason that why we want to use Docker, because we get support of Docker compose. And that is very important when it comes to the installation, or like, let's say, for running, because it is based on a compose file. So like that means that if there is a compose file, that means of course, I think that we already have a Docker compose YAML file. So that makes it absolutely necessary to also use Docker compose. So that is why, like, just as a brief context, now the idea is that since we have already done all of these different steps, the next step is to install Meshery. Now we have created a specific command. So of course, if we go to the Meshery documentation, right, because that is the best way, and if you go specifically to WSL2, you'll find basically this this command, I guess. Yeah. So if you want to install if you want to install Meshery, I guess yeah, I think we should be over here, Mesheryctl. So you'll find this particular curl command. So basically, this curl command not just only installs, it starts, but it also runs the Mesheryctl command directly for you. So this has multiple purposes. Now, the current one that we have in the documentation is not the most, like the updated one. There were some issues. So basically, if you want to install, you also need to give whether the context is like if you want to put in Docker or Kubernetes. So let me just bring that issue up and share the exact one, because that was something that I had faced myself, and this is an
Yeah.
issue that actually cropped up only a couple of days back.
So while you're searching, so the
Yeah.
Shivay explained it in his slide. So Meshery is of course based into this, let's say, a service mesh and then Kubernetes. So there's two ways of installing it. The first one, and the one that is, let's say, the most recommended because it's the easiest one, is using Mesheryctl command. That's the one that we are using here. And here the issue that is showing is like right now we can explain like, okay, I'm deploying Mesheryctl, or sorry, I'm using Mesheryctl, but then I will deploy directly inside Kubernetes the let's say my YAML files and everything. Okay, so the platform, the backend platform is Kubernetes. Okay, yeah. So by doing that, actually, we deploy, I guess, the YAML manifests directly of the how do you say, the service meshes controllers, and then it's deployed directly inside your Kubernetes cluster. That's there's like I don't know a proper name. I know that we were discussing at some point in time with Lee, which was like in cluster, out cluster, or whatever. Like so it's like, do you install your application, your Kubernetes application, inside Kubernetes directly, or is it, let's say, outside, and then you interact through the kubectl commands or the API, right? If you are doing like your own tool, like Mesheryctl in this case, you can call the API of Kubernetes, the control plane, right? And then you can say like, okay, please deploy this application and with these certain, let's say, options and everything. So here, like, we curl, again, it's not recommended to curl scripts on the internet. Be always mindful what you are curling. Okay, here we know that it comes from the GitHub of Meshery directly. Okay, so this is the correct address. If you see something else like corsair.io/Meshery, please be mindful. Okay, don't run it through bash directly. Be mindful of the scripts. Okay, if you trust the script, if you trust the, let's say, the source, which is in this case the project itself, then you can run such like it's the same way for installing K3D, right? The K3D was like curl K3D rancher something, right? So it's okay. You know who is the source, but when you don't know who is the source, these scripts can have some effect. So please be really mindful. For our demo, it's okay. It's totally fine, and we trust here the Git.io Meshery, right? So platform, then we set like the platform. So this is new for me even. So exactly, I hope I explained it well, but it will like install the controllers directly inside Kubernetes, my guess.
Yeah. And just one thing to keep in mind is that if you don't want to use the curl command, we do have our releases that go on in Meshery. So you can directly install over here, like, this Meshery 0.5.15. And using this also, you can access Mesheryctl. Like, it's not necessarily that you have to use the curl command. This is also something that you can definitely use.
So the curl command again is a script, and if you trust it does something else. It also places the Mesheryctl maybe in your let's say bin folder and everything, right? So you can do it manually. Now the script is helper. I don't say the script is bad. I just say like be mindful when you run a script out of internet. That's all.
Yeah. So the next step that you have to do is use this command or the alternative method that we have described, and then again you go back to your WSL and you simply again use this command. And what you'll see over here is that of course, like, first it will start installing. So for us, like, it has already installed. So as you can see, like, it is installing that specific version, and it is gathering that latest release that we have. As you can see, right, like the release that we have, the latest one is 0.5.15, and it is installing the same one. So that should give you context of how it is using the curl command to fetch the entire repository and use it locally. So I think because so I was using it and one more thing. This is a new beginner's mistake, that never do it in system 32, because you might not have the permission. So always do cd to go back to your root folder. Basically, that is something to keep in mind. So you can start the installation, because otherwise what will happen is that you will not get the permission to actually install it, and the installation will fail.
So here, the part here, it's important to understand now how WSL and Windows. So we are in the interrupt world, okay, interoperability. So as you can see from the WSL, from the Linux user space, we can see the C drive, actually the Windows file system, okay. It's okay if you are in MNT-C users, your username, you will have all the permissions. By default, when you launch WSL in this, let's say, particular command line, right? Or sorry, not command line, terminal, okay? It goes directly to System32. System32, of course, is like one of the sacred place of Windows, so you can not do much there. Okay, so the thing is, like, if you try to run something that will download stuff that will try to write into this particular directory, even though we are in manager or administrator mode, you might not have the permissions, which is great. So like Shivay just did and said, whenever you see like it's this one, please just do a cd, and just by changing directory, it will go back to your home directory on the Linux side. Okay, so on WSL side, and from there you can see that Meshery could like go from Mesheryctl to user local bin Mesheryctl. It at first it had like a permission denied because it was not under sudo, which is great. It's okay, but then it moved it. Now that's okay. So the first time that you do the curl, it will also run Meshery itself. Okay, it will do the Mesheryctl system start. now, because we were doing some tests just before the live stream, because we were waiting on the live stream to come up, you might have Meshery running already, so you might have some errors indeed.
Yeah. So if you want, so for example, once it has installed, if there are no issues, you should directly then be able to use Meshery. So basically Mesheryctl basically, because the command that we are using is Mesheryctl. Do remember. So Meshery is the tool, but of course, if you are using it in the command line, you're basically using Mesheryctl. And if you want to now start it, right? So basically, you have a Mesheryctl system start. So if I do something like Mesheryctl system start, it will basically start loading. So of course.
So my friend, I have sounds, but your picture freeze.
Is it fine now?
Let me see. No, on the stream it seems to be the same also.
Okay.
So it's really like your picture. Oh no, okay, here we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a lot suddenly coming out. Okay.
Right.
So system, yeah. But again, so just stop right there. If you do like Mesheryctl system, just that. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry,
it will tell us. Oh, Mesheryctl, yes, Mesheryctl system. Okay, it asks for flags, right?
Yeah.
And now, like the configuration is bad because we are already running Meshery against the old cluster. So that's why if you just go up, but that's great learnings. I love these kind of bugs because it's always great learnings. So here, if we read really the error, it states like, okay, Meshery started except the CPX one, which is like a controller. And then you can see like the TLS unshake timeout because the Meshery failed between what he has as a config file and what we have a kubectl now. So now they are both trying to let's say to say like, oh hello, I'm Meshery and I have this key, right? But we remember that we swapped the cluster from K3T, right? So now we are on 2. We are no more on 1.
Right.
So right now the best thing to do it will be like, I guess, to do the Mesheryctl system reset.
Yes.
Or Mesheryctl restart. Okay, I guess restart will even be better, maybe.
Yeah, because we can start with that. So
okay, let's try the system restart. So what it will do is like it will now get our kube config and our kube, let's say, our Kubernetes config, hopefully, or otherwise we will need to do a reset. I don't know, but no, CPX went through, so this time it should work fine. So now I have the proper key of my cluster, of my Kubernetes cluster. Okay.
Yeah.
So by doing the reset, it matches now the correct cluster, let's say, config. So it stopped everything. Now it's like getting, okay, exactly.
So officially it starts Meshery. And of course, as you can see that all these different ones, right? Mesheryctl, Mesherycuma, Meshery console, these are all adapters that are built for different types of service meshes. So OSM, that is the open service mesh by Microsoft, Istio, console, these are all different service meshes that have support, like we have support in Meshery for these particular service meshes. So that is why it has different adapters, and you'll find their GitHub repositories also separate. Like all of them have separate GitHub repositories that you can look at. So now it's just preparing so that we can log into the dashboard. So it's preparing all the static folders as well.
Yeah, beautiful.
Okay, so we are good to go. And if we go now to localhost 9081, so let's go to localhost 9081. We should be able to. Okay, sorry, I think it didn't.
No problem. No problem. Yeah. It happens to me all the time, so all good.
Yeah. So this is the localhost 9081, and for some reason it's So as you can see, like,
so now, yeah, just pause right there. So let's start to understand again. I know that you are in the WSL2 room, so you might know it. But now what we did is like we are running an application on Docker installed on WSL directly. So it's not Docker Desktop, it's really Docker on top of Ubuntu.
Yeah.
Okay. And we are running an application. Okay. First of all, we are running Kubernetes on top of Docker. Okay, so it's K3s, but it's still a full-fledged Kubernetes. Okay, so we have running Kubernetes on the Docker on WSL, and now we are opening the Windows Internet. The Windows Chrome in this case. Okay, on the Windows side into a port that is open actually on WSL on Docker side, right? So that's really the power of interoperability. Like, and you see, like local host, you don't need to understand which IP do you have. It's not a VM, it's a micro VM, but it's like some parts are really bound together. Okay, and Docker really leverage all these, let's say, underlying infrastructure. Okay, so by doing that, you can simply copy paste like you would have done in a full-fledged Linux in this case, where you have your own browser and Docker running on the same level if you want. So here is kind of separated. And now you have localhost, a port, and then /provider, and boom, we have a website. Beautiful.
Boom, yeah. And of course, then once you do this, the next steps for you would be to actually install a service mesh and test it out. So we have a lot of tutorials that can show you. So one of the great ones was actually on YouTube, I guess, which showed how to connect Linkerd. So we'll also present those links with you for your reference. But essentially, this is how you do it. And of course, what we didn't cover, because we actually we're faced with the problem with Minikube, but as we shared earlier, that you can either install Minikube locally on your Windows, or you can also install Minikube on WSL, and you can use that as well to create your clusters and connect. And we have separate documentation on layer 5 on our Meshery. So if I'm not mistaken, that should be right over here. Let me disable this hiding floating panel. So if I'm not mistaken, it should be somewhere over here, Minikube. So this is the documentation that you can refer to, that once you have installed Minikube, you basically have the Minikube start command to to check whether it's there, and you can look at Minikube status, and the Minikube status will again have the same things as your cross plane, your Kubernetes plane, and then the core DNS, all those different things that we saw in when we had done the kubectl status, right? So it will show you the same things, and then you can directly follow these steps. That once you have installed Meshery, using that curl command, you can refer to these docs as well to basically configure Meshery based on Minikube. Again, over here, what we're doing is that all those different things, including your YAML file, your kubeconfig file, all those will again come in handy over here. So you can refer to this particular link as well. But I guess, once we get fine, we can probably create another small demo using Minikube once we are able to actually fix that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So the just in case you want to install right now, I will update it. But there's a blog post that I wrote with Eeyore from the CNCF about how to get actually Minikube inside WSL2. There's parts that are needed because it relies on a process manager called systemd, which is normally, if you are into Linux, you know systemd by now, but okay, anyway. But WSL doesn't have it by default. Okay, there's a script from a dear friend of the community and a dear friend of mine also, which is Daniel. And he created like a script that allows us to launch actually a systemd process manager inside WSL. There's others, like there's Jenny, Genie or Jenny, I don't know how to say it in English, but that does exactly the same, and there's an installer and everything. So if you just search like WSL systemd, you will find it. But the blog post explains how to get it anyway. Okay,
Yeah.
and you can get Minikube inside WSL2. Now, if Minikube is outside, and that's what Shivay was just explaining here, is like we try to get it running, but we face some, let's say, some issues. Is that by default WSL2 and Hyper-V, which is what Minikube will do, is like it will create a VM. Okay, so WSL2 and Hyper-V do not communicate. Okay, by default. Okay, so there's some scripts done by someone from the community also this time, but in PowerShell. And the thing was that we were trying, but we were getting some issues, and it was like too short to do it. But anyway, we will try to get definitively a WSL to Minikube Windows kind of existing, and we will try then to actually do something. Okay, so if you just go back to Meshery, just to end in a good note, we will not install anything, but if you just can you just enter just the interface, because again we were explaining about like the meshmates at the very beginning, if you remember. So Meshery is actually in need also of web developers, because even though, so here is the OOS, let's say, connectivity, which is great. Okay, so Meshery, let's say, connects you inside. All right. So now, once you will be connected in a few seconds, hopefully.
I hope we didn't run into an issue.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Otherwise, we will pick just none, and then I just want to showcase like. If possible, okay. Just go back to the front page. All good.
Yeah. What we can do is that, okay.
Again, it's live demo. I like to show that because live demo. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Okay, so here, okay, this is like the web page. Behind there are comments. There are other things. But still, maybe you don't know service mesh, maybe you don't know Kubernetes, maybe you don't even know like Docker, right? But you know that, I don't know, the buttons, they look good, but maybe you will do different way or the more modern way, which is good right now. I'm not saying it's not good, right? Yeah. So on the side, menus, you know, like you have the website. If you are a web developer, we are in need of web developing, right? So you suddenly can provide with your help how to actually help a product, right? Which is Meshery in this case, like a tool, open source, and you can help with your own skills. You don't have to be a Kubernetes guru. You don't have to be a Docker guru, right? And that's the strength of these, let's say, applications. And layer 5, like the company itself, but now the community, right? Layer 5, it's really what it says, community. It means that we need everyone, okay? You have a special skill, then we need you. Like the common base, and that's why the meshmate is so important also, is like the common base here is that someone will get you, let's say, started with how to provide your help in the best way, so you provide your help and the community can receive your help in the same way. Like we speak English, right? If I will start speaking French or Portuguese to Shivay right now, he will not understand. So the base, let's say, the base layer of a community here is how to do PRs, how to do, let's say, how to help and actually do some Gits, how do you say, Git management a little bit, and how to go to GitHub, right? So pull request, sorry, it's a PR is pull request. So how do you do your first pull request? What is a pull request? You always hear PR pull request, what it is. So the meshmate is here really to get you started with your own skills. And then by doing this, you will start looking at like, okay, I really want to know what Istio or Kuma or Linkerd are. And then you can, with your skills, you enter another world, okay? And then suddenly you start learning. And that's the beauty of it. Like, and the community is here. We have like really strong people on each department, kind of. Okay.
Yeah.
And they are here to help.
And of course, like the roles that you can have, whether you have experience with DevOps and Go. So the Go, like the entire backend is powered by Go. And if you have experience with Kubernetes, Docker, like again, this is a great project that you can look at. And of course, from the front end, we have React.js being used. And Next.js also is in the transition. Or even if you're like a graphic designer, there are positions for UI designers as well. So like, again, it's a very collaborative community. And I guess today we have the community call, and those who are interested, they can definitely also join the Slack channel. And of course, like it's a very welcoming and inclusive community because it's still quite small. Of course, like, you know, Docker itself is such a large community, but Docker is also a really great community. But of course, the level of, you know, attention that you get in a smaller community is always, you know, like going to be better. And that is what you can expect at layer 5.
And seriously, layer 5 is no more that small, right? So I think like Lee at some point in time posted in LinkedIn that how many people, okay, like me, they can come and go, right? I will always be attached to layer 5. I'm not like 100% at layer 5. Okay, I'm doing my stuff kind of outside. But then whenever the community needs help, whenever Shivay hits me up on Slack, I come and run. Like, I know this community is great and I will always help her. Okay. So do not wait. Just go to the Slack channel, please, Shivay, if after you can just put like some links. And yeah, so it's okay. It's everything is done then.
Yeah, so I guess we are complete.
Yeah. Any goodbye words?
Yeah, so first of all, again, thank you so much, Nuno, for the experience and being able to, you know, speak at a large conference like DockerCon. It's like a dream come true. So and hopefully, like, you know, people, because I guess there's a news that there were 80,000 people tuning into DockerCon, 80,000 people. If I'm not mistaken. So
they were registered, and yesterday they had a peak of 20,000 plus connected simultaneously. So that was like crazy huge.
Yeah. So if you have any questions regarding layer 5, definitely join the layer 5 Slack. And of course, if you just want to have some great tools for installing Docker, WSL, for that matter, K3D, all those you'll find on this GitHub. And of course, I can share Nuno's as well. Nuno, if you want to probably share, like, this is my Twitter if you want to follow me, but you can also follow layer 5 Meshery on Twitter as well.
Yeah, please, just after it's done, put the links on the chats, on the community room chats, and add the Meshery and layer 5 one definitively.
Yeah, all right, I'll do that.
All right, perfect. Thanks a lot, Shivay. It was really great. I liked it. I liked how the Meshery evolved and the new command and the new options. I have to go back and play with it and challenge a little bit more Lee. I think it's too much. He's doing too well lately. He needs some challenges.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks a lot, my friends. And yeah. So thank you. So let me just go back here. So now I will just do a small pause, everyone. So the stream will continue, but I will just not be here. And let me just get prepared in 10 minutes break, kind of. Okay. And so then afterwards we can resume our journey. So yeah, talk to you in just a bit.